RoCo Radio, your home for all the hits. Joe Dexter here with you, home for local music as well as we welcome in Garry Percell. Garry, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I hope you are.
I am. Garry, I hear we've got some good news on May 22nd coming shortly here soon, as well on RoCo Radio with Reaction coming out. But first, I want to ask you some questions about your career, if that's all right.
That's great, man. Go ahead.
Well, first, we know you're Reidsville, you're Ram Pride all the way. I read that you started playing guitar at age 9. What got you into the guitar and into music?
Well, I come from a musical family. My mother is a pianist, and we all began in the church. And she played for many choirs in the community. So when we were kids, she taught us instruments. Some picked up piano, some picked up bass guitar, some picked up lead guitar, like myself, and taught us vocal and things of that nature. So, it was instilled into us in an early age.
And from 9, how did you find that love for guitar? Was it just being able to pick it up for the first time? Did you know instantly that that's the instrument that you wanted to practice on the most?
I'll tell you, my father got me a bass guitar first to accompany my mother, when she played for churches, things of that nature. And got me a bass guitar. I think I played that bass guitar for about 1 year, and it just didn't do it for me. So I would go in the community that I lived in, and there were different guys that had, some old guitars, some Sears Silvertone guitars that they just picked up and messed around with. And so I would hang out there, and they allowed me to pick it up one time and play it. And at that point, man, that was it. That's the instrument I wanted to play.
Well, I like to say on the airwaves, he's one of the best jazz guitarists in the world, and we've got him right here in Reidsville. How do you get that love for jazz? How did you start forming a love for that type of genre?
Well, I played many different styles, if you will, or genres, my whole life long, really, going back to 8 years old, 9 years old, when I started to love for guitar. I just didn't hone my focus on one particular genre of music. I wanted to listen to all different kinds of music. So of course, during that time, um, I listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah.
and so I listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix music and mimic him and things of that nature. And then I listened to something that caught my ear, which was when Hee Haw used to come on TV. And so I used to sit and watch Hee Haw and watch them play. And most of their instruments was electrical and acoustic, but Roy Clark, I used to love to tune in so I could see Roy Clark play. Many people don't know, how great Roy Clark was, as a guitarist. And he just blew me away with his style of picking and grinning, as he made famous. But if you get beyond the grinning and the facial expressions that Roy did, if you just listen to what he played, it would blow you away. And so Roy Clark, I was listening to pick up on that style of music. Start listening to some classical guitar, Earl Klug, during that time. Some Wes Montgomery kind of brought me into the jazz side, with the double octave kind of thing. And then Chet Atkins, I loved his style of playing too as well. So as you can see, I had a great mixture, and of course the Motown stuff, that I listened to as well. So I kind of dived in, into music, itself, in general.
And what inspires you today? Is there any type of music today or any artists out there today that continue to inspire you? I mean, I know that your love is just to pick up a guitar no matter what, but are there any artists out there today that inspire you?
Wow. There, I will always say, like Jonathan Butler, who is from South Africa. And I followed him almost his whole career when he was just in South Africa playing guitar. And then uh, when he got his record deal, he became a national artist, and started listening to his music then, because he had the vocal with it, a fantastic vocalist, but also prolific guitarist too as well. And I followed his career all the way through, because he was beyond just playing guitar. There was always a great message in his music, and it was always positive. lyrically, and the energy that he uses. He still does that to the day. He's a very deeply spiritual guy, and you can tell that when it comes to his music. Another guitarist now, while I'm in the contemporary jazz market, is that I was introduced to Nick Coleon, who passed away probably about a year ago, and Nick's playing is inspiration too as well. Matter of fact, in my show that I do now, I pay homage to Nick Coleon. My first song that I do to my show is a Nick Coleon song. And then I have a second song that's in my set list, one song of Nick Coleon too. So I think that his music will continue to live, even though he's not here physically with us.
You know, I know you're a very positive guy, and one of my favorite sayings is music says what words cannot. When you're performing or when you're in the studio recording or even writing up lyrics for songs or planning to put together the parts of songs that you're working on, what power does that have for you? Knowing that music, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you think about music. I think it's more powerful than words at times.
It is. I had a discussion with my chart director. It's a guy. His name is Matt, and he writes all the charts for the Apollo Showtime weekly on a weekly basis. And so when you're out on the road, and I am a solo artist, so I don't have a set band, and it's just economical right now. So when I take a gig, say for instance in California, they have a band that's slated there in California to back me up, and so charts are written. So you send that ahead of time, the charts and the MP3s of the song, and those guys just read your music as it is, and so there's a lot of things that go on with what we do. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I just popped in my mind about the charts.
Yeah, I think for music, especially one thing that I find interesting is the power of music here in our own community. There's so many great artists, and there's artists that we don't even talk about or know about as much that we should. What do you think about Rockingham County that makes great musicians?
Rockingham County that makes good musicians is the home. I think it's the hometown flavor. Now, when you look at the hometown flavor, uh, there are many different people ranging from many ages, uh, race backgrounds, things of that nature. So it's a melting pot of music. And I believe when you coming from a small hometown like Reedsville, there's some deep, rich roots, in music. And we have a tendency, because we're not a big metropolitan city, it is that what happens is it just becomes part of us. I mean, as I can look back, is that the thing is that I have an obligation, to carry on this music flavor of Reedsville, because it was instilled in me down through my mother and her family and her sisters when they had their gospel singing group, and then before that it was their mothers. So it's just a long legacy of music that's deep rooted here in Rockingham County, and so I think that no matter where we go, that flavor of Reedsville will always be a part of our music. I remember, if I could tell a short story, is that when a friend of mine, Robert Irving III, who played and produced several records or albums for legendary Miles Davis, and he was here in Rockingham County for a while, but he went back to live in Chicago once again, where another part of his family is from. And he called me up and says, "Hey, you ready to come into the city and work? I'm with a record label here and there, and just come on up and join in, with what we're doing." And so when I came there to play, I didn't know that he had already taken some demo stuff that I had done here. So when I got up there and met several musicians and guys there, they was like, "Oh, we know you." I said, "How you know me? This is my first trip to Chicago." It says, "No, we've heard you, and through music that Bobby had introduced us to." So he said, "You have that North Carolina flavor." When he came, he said, "That's that North Carolina sound." which North Carolina sound, our community, but that was the Reedsville sound, and it has a sound of its own. Later on, if we do another interview, I'll tell you a little backstory on that too. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds great. Tell us about Reaction, what went into putting that together, and what you love about working with the fellow saxophonist that's on there with you, Jason Jackson.
Okay, I've just become a close friend with Jason here recently. I knew Jason probably about 2 years ago. He works also with a producer that I worked with in California, and so my producers on the West Coast, and what we do, we co-produce music. It's just a team that we have together. Jason was produced by the same producer that I'm produced with, and so it just came into that Jason was part of an extension of the team, if you will. And so my producer introduced me to Jason, and he sent some parts in, to the song, and the producer and we just kind of says, okay, that's cool, that's good. I said, well, let me play some guitar against what Jason had just done, and Jason was listening to guitar parts that I sent, he played some saxophone lines toward that, and just started to come together. And that back and forth of reaction at the end of the song is really where that name of that song comes from, because it's the reaction. He plays something, and then I react. I play to it. I play something, he reacts and play to it. So it's just that whole communication thing that we originally spoke about, is that the language that we don't have to speak words. Is that music has a language of its own, and it's about our perception and how we feel it and how we interpret it, and we know exactly what each other are thinking and what we're talking about and what we're saying. It's universal, man. Music is awesome.
They say in science that every action has an opposite reaction. In music, every action has a beautiful, better reaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It does. It has a better reaction, because each time the first reaction gets a second reaction, and then those two things don't go away. And then the third reaction, and then you start building, and wow, then boom, you have something that's special, that's been put together through the spirit and through the universe.
He's Garry Percell. The single is Reaction, coming out on airwaves on May 22nd. We get to play it early here. Thank you, Garry, for allowing us to do that. It means the world to us, and it means the world to us that you're right here in our community. So thank you so much for all you do for music and all that you do for our community. Here's the latest single from Rockingham County's own Garry Percell. It's Reaction, featuring Jason Jackson.